Officials in Mexico are threatening strike back against Donald Trump and his proposed policies against undocumented immigrants and Mexico. In fact, Mexican Senator Armando Rios Piter is proposing legislation that could put Mexico in conflict with the United States. In fact, he says the following: "It was a historic error for our president to invite a person like that to our country. Mr. Trump used us as a campaign tool." So what is this senator's strike back? What is his proposed legislation? In the past, Trump has threatened to cancel NAFTA, claiming it was bad policy that hurt U.S. manufacturing industry. If Trump were to do this, however, the senator's bill would trigger a review and possible cancellation of all the bilateral agreements between Mexico and the United States. So those bilateral agreements include land that the U.S. pretty much took over from Mexico. So the bill that the senator is proposing would specifically cancel the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which ended the Mexican-American War and ceded Texas and California as parts of Arizona, Colorado, as well as parts of Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, Wyoming to the U.S. if Trump cancels NAFTA.
This is awesome. What a hilarious idea.
Gerard.
Okay. And finally, we libs get what we want. We get to be Mexicans. We live in California. Now California will be part of California.
That's how I already identify.
So there you go. Okay. No, I'll be honest with you. I prefer to be American. And that's why I immigrated here, as our family did. That's why I chose to be an American citizen as an adult. I'll stay American. Now, are we really going to lose California and all those other states and Texas to Mexico? I don't think so. But it's a great little rhetorical trick. Oh, you want to cancel agreements? Well, two can play that game.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll cancel agreements, and then let's have at it, Hoss.
There's also a fascinating component of this story that I don't think most Americans know about. I didn't know about it, but there are more than 1 million Americans living in Mexico. So you want to deport Mexicans, Mexico can deport those Americans, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that part either, to be honest. I didn't know there were 1 million Americans living in Mexico. So he's like, oh, you say, oh, we're going to pay for the wall. So this bill would make very clear, we're not paying for a goddamn thing, okay? We're not paying for the wall. And you say, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to make sure that those remittances from the Mexicans that live in America are not going to go back to Mexico. Okay, well, then your citizens are going to pay higher taxes here in Mexico. And maybe Trump won't care, but a lot of Americans will. At least 1 million Americans will care. And so what this Mexican senator is saying is, let's dance, right? You want to dance and you think you're the big tough guy bully and you think that you're the only one who could push people around? Okay, maybe we're not as big as you are, but we can push back.
Yeah.
So how far do you want to go with this? And I love this last line. He said, we want to shut Trump's mouth, which has been spewing this hateful speech.
Yeah, I like that.
Damn.
I like that aggressive talk.
He Mexican. Okay, so, but understand the importance of this, which is that if Donald Trump thinks that there's going to be no consequences from any other nation for all the idiotic things that he's saying, it's a terrible miscalculation. Whether you think that Mexico can actually exact some sort of consequences to us that is deeply problematic, that's an interesting and open question, and they might be able to do some damage if they think we're trying to put damage on them. But I know China can, and I know that a lot of other countries in the world can. So when you start playing these games, oh yeah, I'm going to make the Mexicans pay, I'm going to make the Chinese pay, I'm going to make these guys pay, I'm going to make those guys pay. Yeah, they can also make us pay. So you get into trade wars, you get into real wars, you lose Texas. Okay, these are all real ramifications. Yeah. I know, just please, for God's sake, I know we're not losing Texas. Don't freak out. Okay, but when China says, okay, let's have a trade war, that is going to be a huge consequence. Then yes, everything here will be more expensive. Yes, our debt will go up. Yes, our interest rates will go up. Yes, there'll be less jobs. So there is a reality to this, and apparently it takes a Mexican politician to point out at least some of that reality. Become a TYT member today.
Can't do it.
No, you really can. You just go to tytnetwork.com/join.